inviting these four panellists, we've given you enough of a range of different aspects of the world of dementia to give you some ideas, some inspiration, and I've got a few questions to put to the panel when they come and sit up here in a minute and field those questions. I'm going to join them just in case anybody's got a question about Grace or the charitable involvement in the world of dementia. And Gemma is going to take over, keeping everybody, including the panellists, in order.
Could you tell us more about the problem of visual processing, please, and how you would describe it, how you look for it?
Yes, we look for changes in vision, as we call it, visual processing attention, by using lots of different methods. One of them is scanning using MRI and something called magnetoencephalographic, measuring the magnetic processing, if you like, electrical processing and magnetic fields in the brain. Some very, very complex ways of measuring it. We also do behaviour studies, and we can tell a lot about how somebody can see something and how well they move their attention around by pressing buttons to what they can see on the computer screen. How well something captures your attention, how well you can move your attention around in response to a change in your environment. And there are lots of different aspects of visual processing. There are things that help us notice colours, shapes, how we join that information together to form what we call perception, and that's our understanding of our visual environment. But there's massive, what we call interconnectivity of the brain, and if you have a problem in one area, like your vision, it's going to impact on other areas. And from very simple behavioural tasks and from imaging, we then go on to look at how somebody reacts in an environment. So we can mimic what our brain is doing by looking at very simple, I find it difficult to explain, but you talk about the colours of doors. You know, that if you have a problem in colour processing, then it's going to be difficult for you to see a colour and associate it with something. Does that answer your question?
That's very helpful.
I just wanted to ask whether there are some places in the world that have much higher levels of Alzheimer's and dementia, or much lower levels, and whether this, if that is the case, whether you think it relates to lifestyle or genetics.
Stretch the market there. To deal with that, actually, dementia affects the whole world over. There was a misconception that it was a disease of the developed world, actually, but that's not true. There are huge numbers of people affected by dementia throughout the world. Saying that, there are some interesting epidemiological lifestyle issues. There's long been association with Mediterranean-style diets and lifestyle and reduced risk. Now, none of that has been proven proper, controlled, scientific clinical trials. But there's lots of evidence that suggests that the diets rich in fruits and vegetables and that sort of food, those sort of things, can reduce risk. And they tend to be associated with certain regions, clearly. But generally, it's a global problem. And I don't think there's any single population that can provide that really exciting insight that could perhaps give some clues into lifestyle issues. It's a very interesting question. Does that help?
Yeah, but just following on from that, is it very hard to separate cultural influences from, say, dietary influences? Because in the Mediterranean, people might be within an extended family for a greater part of their life.
Absolutely, and they're notoriously difficult studies to do, and that's why the epidemiology sometimes gets a little misinterpreted. That's why I'm trying to be slightly cautious myself, because this does lead then to headline news that certain diets can actually, dramatically reduce the risk of dementia, because as you say, it's a very, very astute point that if you look at those populations, there are so many factors, including education, exercise, diet, culture, ethnicity, that have to be factored in it. So they're very complicated things to interpret, actually. And unfortunately, the ones that have come through properly controlled scientific trials haven't delivered a really positive outcome so far.
I sympathise. I mean, 10 years without a diagnosis from my dad, as you heard earlier. Obviously, in that time, we noticed the symptoms that he had. Obviously, as I said, medical professionals noticed the symptoms that he had. But there was just a reluctance to do anything. Sadly, although I think some things are changing through my blog and the work I do now, I am sadly still hearing stories like yours, things that mirror my own. I mean, a lady and her mother on Twitter recently, they've been through a horrendous time, resulting in a gentleman with Alzheimer spending over 8 weeks in hospital, and then having to battle to actually get him home so that he could die at home rather than in hospital, which I think most families would not want that for their loved one. So I think there are still massive issues. There's also massive postcode lottery. I've discovered this as well. Obviously, my work is going all over the country now, and I'm hearing different people's stories. And sadly, I think in some parts of the country, the care is better than in other parts of the country.
I don't think it's a general thing, but Somerset, I think it's absolutely diabolical. Absolutely diabolical.
Here and there.
My father in hospital, without even telling us, they discharged him back to another unit without even telling us. I mean, it's absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating. And what I would say is that during my father's 9 years in care homes, I didn't really have a life. People think your parent is in a care home, you just carry on, you just visit once a week. It wasn't like that at all. I didn't have a career. Boyfriends came and went because they didn't want to play second fiddle to my dad. He came first in my life. I don't regret a second of it. I would have him back in an instant, dementia and everything it brings, because he was still my dad. But you do face, sadly, a huge battle pretty much every day. And as I said, when the care declined at my father's home, in the last few months of his life, I actually had to get CQC into that home the week before Christmas, and I actually had to beg them to come. And despite the fact that they came, it took me 2 months to produce a report. And the manager who was responsible for the care that my father received is still the manager of that home today. And that is something I bitterly regret because, I feel that the standard of care is not good. Last summer, the home had a fantastic CQC report. The week before Christmas, it had a damning CQC report. And although CQC obviously have got a generally bad reputation now, and there's a lot of changes going on within that organisation, I think, nevertheless, their reports reflected the state of that home and the fact that I think there is bad care going on all over the place. You mentioned antipsychotics. I am not in any way, shape or form a fan of them, I'm afraid. There's a very inspirational doctor at the moment, Dr. Karim Saad. He works for West Midlands NHS. Anyone who's interested in reducing the use of antipsychotics should look up his work. It's very inspirational. It proves what can be done without the use of drug treatments. We actually banned antipsychotics for my father. When he was first in hospital diagnosed, he was put on every drug they could possibly think of. They just wanted to sit him in a corner and for him to be asleep. And I wasn't having any of that, and neither were the rest of my family. So the minute he was moved into his nursing home, we had him off of those drugs. And we basically implemented therapeutic methods of controlling is the wrong word, but managing his dementia symptoms. As a result, he never displayed aggression. He was very compliant in care, but he was also very alert, and he was what I would say with us, and that's what I would want for anyone. So I wish you well on your journey. Please look up my blog, and I'm always here to support anybody who's going through a dementia journey or has indeed been through one. I know what it's like. Sadly, I've walked in your shoes.
Yes,
That your father enjoyed music, and that, as a form of communication towards the end, singing was, beneficial to him. I want to ask the medical professionals here, has there been research into the benefits of positive experiences like music therapy? Because I have also heard that dancing music is triggered, so people remember dances that they've done and things like that. So what research has been done to that?
I don't do like formal research, but certainly there are lots of programs that go on, some evidence an instrument and who can sing before they get dementia can continue to do so and really get a huge amount of enjoyment. And indeed, with Beth's father, that was a case in point. It's the same with art, it's the same with lots and lots of different activities. And if those activities can be encouraged and facilitated, then someone's going to have a much better quality of life. It's almost as if there's a dissociation in our brain, and things that you've learned automatically, things that you can do without having to think about, you can often maintain during dementia. So I'd say yes, it can be very, very positive. And anecdotal evidence from our member clinics as well to support that.
Just following on from that, really. I mean, I don't actually know anything about what formal research has been done, but I can tell you from my experiences categorically, music made a massive difference to my father's life, and in the gigs I did in different care homes, the difference in other residents as well. It certainly wasn't unique to my father. One of the things that frustrates me the most about a lot of modern care homes, still, they put residents around the edge of a room, stick a TV on with modern programmes that they have absolutely no concept of whatsoever. You need to go back to stimulating their memory from when they were younger. Music is obviously fantastic, and it worked brilliantly for my dad, and I've seen it work for numerous other people, but also old films. As my colleague was saying, musical instruments, people still remember how to play those. And doing therapeutic things like art, gardening, things that people have enjoyed before they had dementia. There's very little reason for them not to continue to actually be supported to do that. I think a lot of care environments actually, because it's rather a lot of hard work to actually implement that sometimes, it's much easier to stick someone in front of a television. But, people with dementia deserve so much more than that, in my opinion.
But we are desperate for daycare in Frome. Lots of my friends have got dementia, husbands or mums, and it's not just that we want to offload our partners, it's that we need a break. And the situation in Frome is mainly for very elderly people, or nursing homes that are full of very elderly people, which is depressing for someone in the early stages of dementia.
There are real possibilities about how we can work in a local community for the benefit of everybody. When we're full, and at some stage that would be our ambition, because we want to make sure that as many people as possible can get access to the services that we want to provide, we would have to evaluate to see whether there would be enough space, physical space, to accept people for daycare. But certainly during the build-up period, it was something that we would warmly welcome, because we would want people to come in and see that you can make a difference even if it's only on a daycare basis. And we would certainly accept respite residents who would come in for any amount of time. At our new home in Fareham in Portsmouth, we had a lady who came in for respite closing.
Concerns me a little bit is that what we have is kind of separate campaigning for one group of people and for another, whereas actually what you had, if you adopted the principles of universal design, we could actually be accessible and inclusive for everybody. Now, following up on your point about daycare, which absolutely applies also to people with learning disabilities, one of the things that we really urgently need here in Frome is a space that is in the community, that is accessible and inclusive and is designed in a way to be welcoming and usable by all members of the community, including people with Alzheimer's and including people with profound disabilities. Now, we do not have an accessible space. We don't. If we had, so I would make a plea for a kind of campaign for everybody here in Frome to come together, particularly looking at the new building opportunity there is with the Sept site, to actually, rather than having a kind of dedicated space in the wonderful Rossetti house that then is just for people with Alzheimer's, can't we have somewhere here in Frome that could be used by everybody in the community for activities that would be really owned by the community, inclusive and accessible to that community? Can't we all campaign together for that?
Cure? No time soon. But I think new treatments, we can be very optimistic about. You can't put a time on it. It's such a difficult condition to cure because we still don't understand what causes it. Let's face it, most of Alzheimer's disease is sporadic. That means there's no single cause. That makes it a very, very challenging question. So I think I can leave you with saying, let's be optimistic about new effective interventions. So I think they will come. Cure, maybe let's be more cautious.
So thank you again. Thank you all of you for coming. And thank you in particular to our panellists, Rob, Beth, Andrea, Peter, for your contributions this evening. Really appreciate that you've been here. And thank you for thank you to Gemma and Alice too, who's lurking in the shadows out there, who are Frome residents and very supporters and have organised everything that's happened this evening. Thank you.